Good evening, Praveen. Good evening. Good evening, Missy. Good evening, Navi. Good evening. Good evening, Praveen. Good evening, Tejas. Hello. Okay, how many people have joined? 14. Okay, we'll wait for a few more minutes. And if you have any kind of doubts from the previous session, you can ask. So, yeah. Anyone have any kind of doubts from yesterday's session? Yes, Nasi. We have yesterday we have dealt with few points of projects. Today we have we'll just go deep dive into the projects. How many deep dive into the routing part? How many different types of routing are actually present? And also we'll understand uh, how we can we implement a project. We'll implement the project, and in this given session, we'll try to implement the searching part in the given project. How do we search? How do we search? Yes. How do we search? How do we sort the things? How do we paginate the things? These are the important features that we'll try to implement in this today's session. So yes, officially today's session, there is nothing but we are going to start the project. So once after starting the project, you will understand why I have just taken these many days to start the project itself. Because from this particular point onwards, it will be nothing but we already know. So we'll just write a simple code. We'll go ahead. So essential basics for in order to build any React project has been covered till this point. From this given point, we are going to deal about what are the different types of routing that actually takes place. Uh, we'll detailedly discuss about how each of them will be applied, and after that we'll see how can we implement the project itself. So how to implement the project, from which APIs we get the data, and sort of thing. We'll deal with it. From today onwards, we'll be working with the project. So tomorrow, we'll be learning about context API, and also after that we'll see how to implement it, and then we'll see Redux part. After that, we'll see the performance and optimization part, and most probably we'll be done with that. Most probably will be done within next 4 to 5 classes. Most probably. This is seventh class, right? Next 4 classes. Within 4 to 5 classes, we'll be done completing this entire React thing, because Redux is one part where I'll take 2 sessions only on Redux, explaining the bottleneck cases. Like first, I'll explain the first session what is the Redux, why it is used, why it is created, and every other stuff. And in the next part, I try to show up what are the bottleneck cases that we have built in our project, and how do we cover using this Redux, so that we'll implement Redux there and then itself in order to avoid these bottleneck cases, so that it doesn't hamper our performance of the application. Then we'll see how do we optimize our application and how do we make it more performant. And with that, we'll go and we'll deploy the things. That's it. That's it. Uh, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Uh, okay. Mm. Okay, let me bring my water. So once I get back, we'll start within 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah. If I have any doubts, just post it on the chat. I'll come and I'll solve after that. audible, guys? Um, am I audible? Am I audible? Am I audible? Am I visible? Please do respond in chat. Am I audible? Am I visible? Voice very low. I am talking at my maximum voice. Maximum thing. So, that's fine. Okay, let me wait. Let me keep the comments thing here. Yes, yes. Shravani and Mahesh, is my voice audible? Is my voice audible? Yes. So, can anyone tell me what we have learned in the previous session? Like, can anyone summarize what the things that we have learned? Yes, clear, clear. Yes. Is this mic not clear, Shivshankar? If so, I'll try to change the mic. So, I'll change the mic. Okay, yesterday we have learned about use cases of use effect hook. And what are the other things that we have learned? Okay, about the routing. So, what is the use case of routing? Yes, I am starting. But Pratap, tell me what is meant by routing? Uh, yes. Say, yes, we are on this given page. Uh, Routing is just a history. No, it's not a history, by the way. Viral bang routing is not at all history. npm run dev. Ah, clear. npm run dev. Yes, the application is actually loading. Click on it. I'll see this is my application. Yes. So to move from one component to another component. Yes, yes. And also we have studied about what is meant by cleanup function, why it is used, what are the different use cases of use effect, and how use effect actually behaves. Apart from that, we also learned about this, you know, like this routing part. So anyone has any kind of a doubt in the yesterday session? If anyone has any kind of a doubt, just make it very quick. That we'll just solve your doubt and we'll go ahead. We'll start with this thing and go ahead. So if you observe this given thing, as a viral bank, I'll go ahead. Don't worry, we'll start project today itself. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay, we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead. Which is nothing but um, this entire route path that we have created for ourselves, where this slash home actually redirects to this given particular thing. Slash about will actually redirect it to these respective elements. And this particular thing, where is this is bit interesting stuff. where I'll say the below path, which I can say the below path, where it is mentioned as with the value of star, where it is mentioned a value of star, where below path actually mentioned with star is nothing but a wildcard entry. Wildcard entry. Yeah, it's a wildcard entry, which is nothing but if you miss any of these routes, which is nothing but if in your even given the in your given URL, if either of these above routes are not accurately present, or either of the above paths are that exactly not present, then we'll say go to this given particular thing. Let's say here we have just loaded our application and it is showing that in the given URL there is no path either home or about or list. That's why it is showing you are navigating to this given particular component, navigating to this given particular component. If I say that slash home, enter, we are on this home page. If I say slash about, we'll say it is of about section. If I say the slash what is list, say we are on the listings page, so this is how the working of this component or route will actually works. But in order to tell that we have these kind of things, wait, let me tell me this particular thing, which is nothing but we have totally 5 different of routings, which is nothing but this is normal routing. The second one is using link tag. The third one is dynamic dynamic routing or template routing. And finally we have nested routing. And also we have a fifth type of routing, which is custom routing. So in this session we are going to learn about these 3 things, because we have already seen how this normal routing thing actually work. Now let's try to understand this second part. Now let's try to understand how this using this link tag, how can we link it, which is nothing but go to this given page. Whenever I click on this home page or when this given component of text home page, I should be going to home page directly. So how can I go that? Is that, let's say I have this one tag which is actually known as given by this router itself, this thing known as a link. This link tag is actually provided by this React router DOM, where I'll say instead of in this given li, let me change it to something where I'll say link tag, where I'll say to this given path home. I'll say home page. So now let's see. Now if I click on this home page, you can clearly see that I am going to this home page. Whenever I click on it, or else I'll add these points also. Wait. So here we have an about page, and also let's try to change this particular thing where we say that it is of listings. So for which I'll say there is this thing of list. Now click it. Now if you clearly see, if I click on this home page, I'll be currently redirected to the home page. If I click on this about page, you'll see we are redirected to this about page. If I click on this list page, we redirect to list page. And if you observe that when I click again on the home page, you'll see automatically my URL is actually getting changed. And when I click or when I go from home page to about page, you'll see the URL is actually changing. URL is also changing. But there is one other important thing that we must observe, is that whenever we are navigating to different pages like home page, about page, list page, you see our page is not reloading. So whenever we use these link tags, or to be more precise, I'll use it link tag. Whenever we use this tag, then reload doesn't happen when we go from one page to another page, go to another page. So that is the thing of link tag. So see, page is not getting reloaded, only the UI is getting manipulated. That's what it is meant by React. That's what it is meant by React. So anyone has any kind of a doubt? So what is the difference between link and nav link? Okay, we'll just see that, but at this point of time, link is the component that is actually given by this particular updated. It's already updated in the GitHub, by the way. Is the code is not updated in the link, GitHub thing, because I've shared a GitHub link, right? So I've been committing that particular thing daily. Achha, instead of Mahesh got a good question that, sir, instead of using switch, why we use routes? So the one important thing is routes are the predefined or pre-built package that is only dealing with the React. It has many other components which itself gives flexibility when we create any kind of a what I can say, when we create any kind of a very good uh, very complex application. So it actually deals with it. Sir, for personal projects, how to get API URLs? We will deal with it in the backend thing. Vignesh, we will deal with the backend thing. So coming to this, what is the difference between link and nav link? Link is one thing that is actually created by this rotor DOM thing, and it is actually used to navigate from the places. Anyone has any kind of doubts? Can I go ahead? Because these are the basic fundamental things. See, whatever you have learned or whatever you have learned till this point will be same applying onto this project also, as we are going to start our project today itself. So yes, if we want me to go ahead, I'll say go ahead. Go ahead. Now we have implemented the links. Now the second thing is dynamic routing, or this thing known as a template routing. So um, let's say we have this users thing, or um, page not found, and about listings and page not found, right? Let's try to create one component itself. Let's say function. As a function, users is one such a component where I'll say um, at this given point of time, can we tell it? Okay, fine. Let's take this particular example. Yeah, let's say user is equal to we'll say return this particular stuff. Return I am a user component. So this is a user component that we have created, but now let's try to see how can we utilize this particular thing. This is nothing but I'll go to this thing known as fake store API. So click on this fake store API and you'll see, go down, you'll see there is this users. Click on the users. We have this details of the users. Now we are going to see how we can implement this thing onto the screen itself. So for which I'll create a route component here. Where I'll say route, and there is this path. When I say this particular users slash ID, which is nothing but if you see this particular API thing where we have, let's say, this ID value, if I say users slash 1, so you will see you are only getting the details of user 1. If I say user of 2, you will get user or details of the users for the user ID whose ID is actually equal to 2, or whose user is actually number 2. If I say C3, you'll see that I only get the details of this particular user whose ID is actually equal to 3. So how can we implement these kind of things? Is that we have this one important thing where it is known as params. Wait a minute. I'll say once we search for it, we'll search for this element and we'll say this users element. We now navigate to this user element, but before that we have this one important thing where how do we actually utilize this particular concept of users, which is nothing but go down where we can say we have this one single thing, params. So where are these params? Yes, let's say we have this code. There is this one thing known as params. There is this one thing known as params. Use param. This function that is actually given by the React, where for any given URL, if there is any kind of a thing, this end thing. To be more precise, I'll show it to you. Wait. Let's say console.log params. Go ahead. See. Let's say we are this given particular thing. Let's user component, or let's say I'll search for it. Here I haven't mentioned in list, right? So users, enter. You'll see this page is not found. Okay, what is this thing? Users, and you'll see this thing known as /1. Enter. So it is telling that I am user component. So if you go to this console log, where is this console log? This is not throttling. Console. I can clearly see that there is actually a object where the ID value is actually equal to 1, which is nothing but, see, if you are given, if in the given path, I am telling that if you see this given particular thing known as users as your route, and if you see some other thing that is actually present after it, I just want to take that particular thing using this use params. So use params is one such a function that is given by the React, where where it returns an object of key value pairs of the dynamic params from the current URL that were matched by the route path. So if you see, this is the route path that we are actually mentioning, that if this matches this given value, let's say if here I am given in the given code, I am searching that user /1. So if you observe this simple code /user /1, if that thing actually is matching with this path, if it is actually matching with this path, then user params is one such a function that actually returns an object of key value pairs of the dynamic params of the current URL. So what is meant by dynamic params? If you see, if you change this value of 1 to 2, execute it, you will see this is a dynamic param. See, if I change the value of 14, enter, you will see what are things in this given URL /users /something. This particular thing is actually known as a dynamic parameter or dynamic param, which continuously change. If you check this fakestore.api.com, if I change this value to some 4, you'll see details of the person with ID number 4 actually be appearing on the screen. If I see some details of number 6 person, you'll see the details of 6 person will be available. So in this given entire URL, this https fakestore.api.com, and there is this /users. Till this point, everything is static. Till this point, everything is actually static. But if you observe this particular thing known as a slash, every time this value is actually changing from 1 to 6 and 1 to 4, any other given value, we are getting the details. So this is known as dynamic param. So how can we get, wait a minute, how can we get these params? How can we get these params? Is that by using this particular function known as use params. So this use params is actually used to get the dynamic params from the current URL that were matched by this route path. So this returns in the form of object and key value pairs. So if you observe it, so currently my URL is having this dynamic parameter 14. So this use param is actually returning it in the format of key value pair. ID and ID value is actually equal to the value of 14. Similarly, let's say if I say the value of 1, enter it. Now you'll see use params is actually returning us this dynamic parameter in the form of key value pair, like an object. ID is in the value of 1. Let's say if I go here, instead of ID, if I say something known as XYZ, and run the code, you'll see that there is no this given page is actually not found. So one important thing for any given mentioning any dynamic param, use this particular symbol. Now you can clearly see. So in this route path, this particular colon symbol is actually crucial in order to determine whether this given parameter is a static parameter or a dynamic parameter. If I don't mention this, then this entire thing is a static route. If I mention this particular thing, if I mention this particular thing, I'm telling that this XYZ is something that is actually known as a dynamic one. It could be a number, it could be an string, any other thing, any other thing. So if I'll say, even if I say this thing known as ABC, executed, see. So the dynamic parameters can be of any other thing, can be of any other thing. So string or number, any other thing. Let's say give the value of give the value of 1.2, execute it. You'll see this float value numbers are not allowed for this dynamic parameters. So 1.2 is actually not allowed. Let's say if someone says 0, you see, oh sorry, not ABC, this is thing known as 1.2, execute it. Now you'll see this float values are also actually equal to this particular thing. Let's say if I mention any other thing like class, any kind of a stuff, let's say I'll just mention /abc and execute it. Now you'll see these things. So for any given URL, if you want to mention any kind of a dynamic parameters, as many as you can, yes, as many as you can mention that. So someone actually says this particular thing, now we XYZ, the here values will be ABC. So run the code. Now you'll see these are the things that actually happens. So this XYZ, which is actually equal to the class thing in the dynamic parameters, this ABC is actually equals to this thing, not this thing. So XYZ. So instead of making this XYZ, ZYX, that would be more convenient. Yes, if you see this class dynamic parameters actually having ZYX and XYZ, in this ABC is actually equal to the XYZ. So that's about this dynamic parameters. Now let's try to understand how can we actually send these dynamic parameters. So anyone, like I have this doubt because every time I actually teach the classes, so the one question I just ask everyone is, so I'll mention test ID. To be more precise, I'll mention test ID, that this ID is actually a dynamic parameter. Now, how many of you thought that how can I get this given particular thing? How can I get this given particular thing? This dynamic parameters to this given params using the format of props, using the format of props. How many of you actually thought it? How many of you actually thought it? Sir, increase the volume bit. Am I audible now, Vignesh? Am I audible? So let's say we have this one prop. Let's say this use I'll say is admin, because end of the day these user and all the other things are also known as your React component. So yes, we can actually do this stuff. We'll say true, and we'll say we'll get the props here, and I'll also say that console.log props.isAdmin, and we have this parameter. Now go and check, run the code. Okay, this is not the stuff. Instead I need to make one, run the code. Now you can clearly see that use params is actually clearly utilized for getting the params in the URL itself. But whenever you're thinking that, sir, it is fine, because whenever we send any kind of a prop, this element will actually get these particular details, right? These details. So that's why I can also get this dynamic routes or dynamic parameters. If someone have thought this kind of things, because it is very common in interviews that people actually tend to confuse you this thing, because this is one of the edge case that people will tell you, okay, this is the what do you say, this is the dynamic parameter I have, so I'm actually sending this dynamic parameter using this particular thing known as prop. So do you think whether this thing actually works or not? Do you think that this thing actually works or not? So you need to be very careful when someone actually do this kind of stuff, because whenever someone sending to the props, let's say if they'll say that, wait a minute, if is admin, or if say that id equal to some value, id is equal to some value like this. Oh, wait a minute. So instead of id is actually equals to the value of 1, then they'll say that, okay, I'm actually, sending this ID in the format of props, So why do we require this particular thing known as, this particular thing known as use params? Then what is the use of this use params thing? What is the greatness about this use params thing? So at that point of time, do not get confused much, because any which way, props and sending the props and sending the this using these use params are completely different. So this is an interview question, so be very careful when someone tries to confuse you. So anyone has any kind of doubts in dynamic routing? Make it fast. If no, we'll go ahead. EZmin is actually a prop that I'm sending for this given component. For this given component, I'm actually sending as some random prop. So people try to confuse you with this format of whether I'm sending a prop through this particular component, whether I'll say I'm getting this ID component through the prop itself. So do you require use params to get dynamic parameters? So use params completely for URL things. Props doesn't deal with URL things, standard thing. Sir, can you also implement like only admin users can access the admin page and non-admin users can also access the dashboard? Yes, we can also we can do it, Mr. Vamsi. We can do it. So it is nothing but this simple conditional rendering. So we'll do it. By the way, we can do it. So till this point, anyone has any kind of routes? If no, we'll see the real world example of this dynamic routing. So after that, we'll see the nested routes, and with that, we'll be finishing with the routes, and we'll go ahead and move on the project quickly. Any doubts? Using state management? Yes. What is using state management? The above thing is nothing but accessing or restricting some persons to not use given certain things. So that is actually different from state management. State management is just managing the state itself, but it's altogether a different ballgame. Any doubts? If you want me to go ahead, tell me go ahead. If everything is clear till this point, because now we are going to see what is the real world use case of this particular thing known as dynamic routes. Go ahead. Fine. Let's see how we can use. Wait a minute, I'll close it. How we can use this use params things, or sorry, this dynamic routing things here. So instead, I'll remove it. Let's say I'm getting props and everything is set. Let's say I have this use params and I have this particular stuff. Okay, I'll do this thing. Wait a minute. I'll remove this console log. It's not required. Now let's say go to this particular website, fakestore.api. Now my main agenda is like using this dynamic routing. I just want to say that I just want to showcase the details of the users. If I say this 7 and I enter this thing, I need to get these details onto the screen itself. So for that, I'll just copy this link. So I'll go to my thing and I'll say that I'll create a state variable. Let this particular user comma set user is actually equals to use state, where initially I'll keep this value as null. I'll tell you why we keep the value as null. Don't worry about it. So I'll say here, if you observe this given code, where everything is actually in the form of an object. Everything is form of an object. So that's why. Wait a minute. This thing. Sorry. Everything here is in the form of an object. That's why I say that I have created an user which actually stores this given particular value of the details that are coming from the backend, which I'll say that for which I'll say use effect. So whenever my first render actually happens, I just want the details of that given particular user need to be rendered as the data onto the screen. First a loader actually happens, then I just want to show my data. For that I'll use this use effect thing, where I'll say yes. Inside of it we have this another function, async function. I'll say this particular thing. I'll say const response is actually equals to await fetch this given particular or this particular URL. So instead I'll mention dollar I'll say params.id. So here params is one such an object that is actually getting this given particular value id, this given particular value. So I'm exactly extracting that given value. After getting this const response, I'll say const user data. I'll say await this dot json. And after getting this response, I'll say I want to see whether this thing is actually working or not. Data, go ahead, whether this particular thing is actually working or not. And in the code, there is this one thing, uncode reference. Use effect is not, sorry. So we need to actually include use effect. Now, are we getting any kind of a data? Okay, let's check whether we are getting this console. Okay, set user and stuff. I hadn't actually done it. So user resp.json fetch this given particular thing. Users ID. Let's try to check whether we are getting a prompts or not, console params or not. Sorry, params. Let's check it. Reload the code. Okay, what exactly is happening? Okay, I'll search for this thing known as 1. Okay, I'm getting this ID thing as 1. This is the user component. So instead, if I want to check whether this user data is actually thing, if I'm getting the data or not, so I'll say set user. I'll use this user data, and here I'll include this conditional rendering thing. So I'll remove it, where I'll say that this given component is actually say that I'll render it user if it is value is actually equals to the value of null, then I'll say question mark, I'll print that loading. If not, I'll say this given particular thing data. So this is conditional rendering that I do. So I'll run the code. It is actually showing loading, so there is this problem at this given particular thing. So fetch, so are we doing this fetch and sort of a thing? Okay, I forget to call this function, so sorry. Every time it is actually going and fetching this stuff, but okay, it is actually getting the details. So check it. You'll see initially we are getting the details. Okay, where is this console of? I need to actually keep it here. Sorry, this is actually present inside of it. So which I just want to say okay. So now if you observe this entire F12, let's see, reload it. We are getting the data, and every time we are getting this data, we are actually getting the fetching the data from that given particular URL and getting the data and printing it to the console, because we haven't kept this particular thing known as dependency array. You see, now it is telling that uncaught reference intermediate value. Okay. Oh, sorry. This is not the place, but this is the place. Run the code. Now we'll see. We have, when you miss this dependency array, and every time this user data is actually setting up things. This because this actually sends the data, to be more precise. Yes. This actually is sending the data. So which is nothing but once we are getting this given data, whenever there is this set user thing actually happens, then except this code, except this line of code, entire your function will get executed again. So that's where your re-render actually happens. So at this given point of time, we found out that this thing is actually working. This thing is actually working on the code. We are actually getting the data. We are actually getting the data. Now, how can we include this given data onto the screen itself? Onto the screen itself, which is nothing but, instead I'll say that h4, sorry, I'll say h4. So if you see this given particular anything, we have name, phone, username. Okay, let's try to implement this username. I'll say user name to be, I'll say user, so here it is nothing but user dot user name. I think username is it is of capital or small letters, so fine, it is of small letters. Username h3, so name to be. So I just want to render in this given particular format, where I'll say for any given user we have this one single thing, that this given username. Okay, this name has two other objects, first name and last name. So I'll say that user dot name dot first name plus, I'll add a space, and there is this particular thing known as user dot name dot last name. And also we have another h3 thing where I'll say phone. I'll say this particular thing where I'll say user dot his phone number, if possible. Let's check it. It's phone. User dot phone. So let's try to see whether this code is actually working. So now check it. Close this thing. Remove this console log. This console log is not required. So this console log is just whether this even given things are actually coming or not. So now can you see whenever I reload it, you see there is this loading, and then we got the details from this given particular URL itself, given URL itself. Similarly, if I say this equal the value of this particular person to be 2, now you'll see there is this other person. If I say this value of other person, if it is of 3, you'll see this other person. So this is the real use case of dynamic routing. So anyone has any kind of a doubt? Sir, did you remove that strict mode? No, I haven't removed the strict mode. If there is a strict mode, F12. If there is this strict mode, if that strict mode or in this main.js is actually main.js is actually present, then if I say as a console.log rendered, and I'll say this particular thing console.log use effect ran, and I'll remove this param things also. Okay, where are this particular thing? Control params, console log params. I'll remove it. Now run the code. Now you'll see everything rendered use effect ran twice. So this particular thing, but first we have this rendered thing. First we know that the initial render actually happens. That's why first this console log has been executed. After this first initial console log has been executed, then we'll see this then we have this console log in the use effect that will be run. First render or this first console log will be run because initial render actually happens. After the initial render, we know that this console or this use effect will call its function. So that's why I have called that's why you see this console log of use effect. But if you observe it, you see that rendered use effect, then use effect ran again rendered and again render. It is due to this thing known as a strict mode. So we'll go to this main.js is JSX. I'll remove it. Now check it. I'll say render. Now it is rendered. It is nothing but rendered first initial render, use effect ran. Then when use effect ran, we are actually getting the data and we are actually updating this thing. We are actually updating this thing. When this the state update, we already know it actually goes the point of render again. That's why you'll see render again here. So this is how the things actually work. Please please remove. When you teach front-end and back-end connect in the real project, then I ask. Many question I have. When you teach front-end, so we are currently dealing with the front-end. So let's focus on front-end. When we go to the back-end thing, we'll see the back-end part. Don't worry about it. Sir, did we remove strict mode? Yes, I just kept it. Now I just removed it. But any which we keep it or remove it, your wish. So this use effect, which is nothing but from which point viral? I mean, from which point you want me to teach viral bank? Uh, from which point viral bank? Please you respond. Which code? I have written entire code. I have written this entire code. You want me to explain this entire code? This use effect? What is the use? In order to render the real data, let's say I'm getting this data, and I'm actually rendering it onto the screen itself. That's the use. Is entire? No. Okay, did you understand the params? What is the use of strict mode? Deepak. Let's not get into that thing because if we get into the strict mode thing, but in which way I'll explain it. I'll explain you in the further classes. Acha, params you have understood. Now, which is nothing but I have called this use effect, which is nothing but let's say initially, wait a minute. Initially, let's say when our code is actually running, there is this thing known as a loading thing. Observe it. When we have this thing known as a loading, the loading thing is actually happening, which is nothing but use effect is actually used to call a function once there is an initial render, which is nothing but once there is an initial render onto the web page, your use effect will call this given function or the function that is actually present inside this thing. So the function which we are used in this given use effect thing is that we are actually getting some details. We are actually getting some details that are actually present in this given URL. In this given URL, we are actually getting this thing and we are actually converting the details into the normal object and we are actually updating this state. Updating the state, and I am now using the same state variable to render onto the screen itself. Because the state variable is actually the data that I am getting from this given link. So whatever data I am getting from this given link is actually stored inside this particular state variable using this set user function. So I want that whatever data that comes from this given particular URL, I just want this state variable to be represented onto the screen itself. That's why I have written this HTML code. Now this use effect, inside this use effect, that whenever there is an initial render actually happens, then this first line will be executed. Once this initial render actually happens, then the use effect is actually called, which is nothing but the function inside the use effect will be actually called. So once this function or this given async function is actually helpful for us to get the data from this given URL, get the data from us to this given particular function, and then we utilize it onto the screen itself. That's what we are actually doing. So everyone, if anyone has any kind of doubt, we can use Axios. Yes, you can use Axios on any other stuff. But I'm using Fetch. Fetch is more convenient for me than Axios. So any kind of doubts? No worries. How to show percentage loader according to the data percentage? We need to write a small logic. So that's altogether a different ballgame. Can you use a bit of time? Axios, I need to install it and I need to do again deal with it. But any which way you can deal with the Axios. It's just Fetch and Axios are similar, so no problem. So any kind of doubts? Can I go ahead? Can I go ahead, everyone? Sorry. Mm. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead with the thing. So now we have understood what is the now we have understood what is the thing that we actually deal with this what do you say thing. Wait a minute. And also we have this. Sorry. I just forget to include this particular thing. As a thing, we also have this particular routing known as redirector routing. Redirecting routing. Redirect routing. So we'll see this redirect routing. What is meant by redirect routing and sort of stuff. So initially I'll be without any of these things. I'll be on that. So initially, whenever my what I can say React application actually starts, it is actually showing me in not font. If I click on this home page, I'll be on home page. But initially when my load or when my page actually loads, at this given point, it is showing me that page not found. But I don't want that. If someone says in this given particular URL, if someone click like this, we are actually navigating to this page not found. If any given website, let's say I'll say netflix.com, observe this netflix.com. Now you can clearly see there is a /in, which is nothing but this Indian page. This is Indian, Netflix page. Similarly, if I search for this thing known as any website, LinkedIn.com. Search for it. You are directly redirecting to this given particular feed. You are actually directed to this given particular feed. Type LinkedIn in your browser. You'll see or you'll observe this particular thing. You directly redirected to this given particular thing. Let's say if someone search for this linkedin.com/ enter, see, you are actually redirecting to this feed. How can we actually make our route redirect to something? Let's say here, I'll again explain it. Here, if I want to search for this thing, www.linkedin.com/, that's it. I'm not going to give any other thing. So if I search for it, you'll see we are obviously directly redirected to this given particular feed page. By default, we are actually redirecting to the feed page itself. So how that thing is actually happening? That is actually due to this point of redirecting routing. So how can we redirect the routing? This is nothing but, let's say I'll create a route. Wait. This particular thing where we have the below thing below route is a dynamic route. Similarly, let's try to understand how can we do this particular thing known as redirecting thing. Redirecting routing. How can I possibly do it? Let's try to understand. So for that, I'll create a route thing. Successfully, we have created a route thing. I'll say path. That whenever in the given URL, if someone mentions this slash, I'll say element. So before actually writing this element, in order to perform this redirecting routing, I'll go ahead and I'll just get this particular thing. This is actually known as navigate. And we have this thing known as navlink. So it is actually a rough thing, but anyway, navigate would be sufficient. Navlink is different. Leave it. Navigate. Where is our code? We'll say element. I'll say navigate. Navigate this thing to where? To this particular thing known as home. To home. So now let's check it. Check our application. Run the code. Let's say I'll say remote and I'll say / only. You'll see I am actually redirecting to the home page itself. This is called as redirecting routing. So anyone has any kind of a doubt? Sir? Why you written use state null, sir? Nisi, yes. As is given example, in this below example, I have seen this. I have written as null, which is nothing but initially user value is actually equals to the value of null. So if you observe this code, this entire thing is actually something in the format of object or key value pair. So whenever we try to render any array, any kind of an object, So for that, if it is actually dealt by any kind of a state variable, then it is more good to be use this particular thing known as null. Instead of making it to value of 0, let's make it this value thing as a null. It is actually a good practice to do. Good practice to do. So anyone has any kind of doubts till this point, like redirecting, routing, any sort of thing? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? And yes or no? Any kind of a doubt? Uh, Tell me if you want me to go ahead. I'll go ahead, because these are fundamental things. See, whatever we have learned till this point, we'll be applying the same things onto the project itself. You'll see. You'll see. Don't worry about it. You'll see. You might be thinking that sir hasn't started project yet. Don't worry about it. If the basics are all cleared, then we are just going to use the same basics to create the projects. Don't worry. You'll see it. You'll see it. You'll see it. Any doubts? Can I go ahead? And can I go ahead? I just want people to be active on this chat. Can we use redirect also for navigate? Why do we use redirect for navigate, by the way? So inside there is a navigate, and inside that you want to again use to navigate. So, but why do we think, Shivashankar, why do we actually require a navigate? Inside that we have another navigate, a component itself. It's of no use, because navigate once will actually helps us to navigate to different part of the thing. So instead of writing route component, we can write a redirect component. Uh, yeah, I can write. It's your choice by the end of the day, Sonia. It's your choice. So this particular thing of redirect. So you're asking about redirect component. Oh, I thought of different thing. I thought of different thing, but yeah. So that's actually that's an older version of this React router DOM. It is in the version of 15 or 16, 15 or 14, 16 good, 15 or 14. So can I go ahead? So if you have any doubt, just post it. We'll just go ahead with the session. And finally, we are left with this thing known as nested routing. Let's try to understand this nested routing. So with that, the types of routing or the intricacies of routing will be done. I'll say this thing, which is nothing but okay. Let's take this about page. Let's say if I go to this particular thing known as about, I'll be on about section. Let's say if I type any other thing after about, let's say if something known as um, emergency. If I type any this kind of emergency, you can see that we are actually redirecting to the page not found, because this route is not exactly found. So this route is exactly not found. That's why it is showing me that thing. But let's go ahead. Let's say if I add this wildcard entry, because whenever we say this wildcard entry, any given page apart from these above links, any given page apart from this given above links, we actually show this component page not found. Similarly, if I say this particular thing, that anything, let's say run the code, you'll see anything after emergency, let's say it is of 1, about of 1, you'll see we are currently on about section. If you remove this one, and enter, you'll see there is only about section. And after about section, add anything. Let's say NxtWave and run the code. You'll see you are on the about section page itself. So how can we nest this particular link itself? How can we nest this particular given link itself? So in order to do that, we have this one thing. So wait a minute, I'll show it. So where is this about component? I'll just close this props or users component. This about component. Let's say I'll say instead of writing this thing where I'll return this particular one component, so I'll wrap it. I'll say h2 component about page. I just want to show this about page, which I'll say there is this another routes where where route is actually calculated, with this particular thing where I'll mention that path. If this, after this about thing, if they have find anything that they have found, it's a company. It's a company. Company is one such a route. So we'll say, sorry, element. We'll say element that needs to be, it's a company. Company. Similarly, if after about, if someone says path thing, and if they mention this particular thing known as founder, let's keep founder, and I just want to redirect to this given particular element, founder itself, founder. So I'll write it down here itself. I'll create this company and other component of, wait a minute. Sorry. We'll create this components function company. Sorry, company. I'll say return. I'll say we are from, or congratulations, you are part of NxtWave. That's it. It's this thing. And after I say that, function founder. This is another component. I just want to say return. I'll say h. Founder is Rahul. Rahul Atluri. So we have these different things where, let's say, if I am this current thing on about page, I'm currently on the about page, and if I say this thing known as company, execute it, now I can clearly see, yes, congratulations, you are the part of NxtWave. So if I say, instead of having this thing known as founder execute, now you see founder is Rahul Atluri. So here we have nested the things, which is nothing but after about, if we type anything and that thing is actually these given paths, then we'll be redirecting to these given components. And if someone says anything like XYZ execute, we'll be still on about page. So this wildcard entry, we are actually making sure that we have known that this given wildcard entry, anything that is actually been present in the path, will actually go to this page found. But what if this wildcard entry is actually present after any given path? It is nothing but after this any given path. If there is anything known as wildcard entry, we'll actually redirect to the same path. Type anything. Type XYZ ABC 1 2 3. So let's say here instead of thing, I'll say 1 2 3. You're still on about path, but let's say of this, after getting to this about page, if I again get these two routes, which is nothing but once there is this company or this path known as company, after this about thing, instead of having any other thing, if I have this particular thing known as a company, then I'll redirect it to this particular thing or this component. If there is any other path, like after this particular about, if there is anything which is actually looking like this founder, then I'll just redirect to this given particular component founder itself. So that's how this nested thing actually works. If you see, I'm actually including this particular thing. This particular thing is actually a static, I can say, path. After that, we are actually telling what, if it is of company, we'll be redirecting to that given page. And if we say of founder, it's good, it is telling that it is a founder. If you observe this particular nested route thing, this particular thing is actually a case sensitive. If I say about, execute it, we are still on about page. We still redirect to this about page. Let's say if there is this thing about, you'll see redirected to this about page. If I say founder, here, you'll see you'll be redirected to this thing. If instead of having this capital F here, if I say small f, execute, you'll still go back to this thing. So here the URL actually updates itself, with the help of this particular thing known as a route and routes. So this is one of the interview questions because in one of the interview people asked me this: how does this particular, because here we mentioned this path to be company. If someone actually giving this thing as founder, if you observe here, the founder is actually mentioned with capital F. If someone says, okay, in the path I'll use a small f, I'll use the small f and enter. You'll see we're actually redirecting to this founder component itself, founder page itself. So how that is actually happening is it is due to with these two components, routes and route. So till this point, anyone has any kind of doubt in this particular nested routing? Anyone has any kind of doubt in the nested routing? So this with it we'll finish. We'll complete our routing part completely. Then we are done with the routing part. Anyone has any kind of a doubt? If doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise, tell me. Go ahead. We'll just see how can we implement the project itself. Okay, well, bang, we are going ahead. No, sir, go ahead, Shivshankar. Okay, sir, can you explain it once more? From which stages? From where? Which part? Or else they just do one thing. If that doubt is actually, sir, explain the full code, it actually take time for the others also. So you can just rewatch the video. Rewatch the video. If it is a small doubt, you can ask me. If it is a small doubt, you can ask me because I can explain it in few minutes. So if I want to explain the full lot of things, then it takes extra time. So sir, instead of company or founder, anything type, it does not found. How can I do it, sir? Sorry, Deepak, I couldn't understand. Instead of company or founder, anything type, it goes in not found page. How can do it, sir? I couldn't understand. Sorry. Understand your question? I didn't understood your question, Deepak. I didn't understood your question, Deepak. Hmm. Um, I'll try this one thing. So we are on this given page. Let's say instead of typing founder or founder 123, execute it. We still redirect to this about page. We still redirect to this about page. We still redirect to this about page. That's how it actually happens. Because in the nested route, we actually in the path of this about, we are actually focusing upon redirecting to this about thing. So we'll go to this about thing. He's asking if we type the wrong URL, it should go to not found page. How can you do it? Just you tell me the logic. You tell me the logic. It should show. Okay, yeah, I now got it. You tell me the logic. How can we apply it? How can we apply it, Deepak? How can we apply it? But anyway, you can try that particular thing after. But can I go ahead? Uh, it's time to apply the project. So can I go ahead? Uh, I don't know, so that's why I'm asking it. So Sonia telling that remove this wildcard, everything is possible. Everything is possible. If you remove it, this given particular wildcard, and if you say go to this particular thing known as thing founder, execute it, you'll see you'll be ending with this particular thing. Without the wildcard, if I say instead of having this thing, company, you'll see, you'll go to the page not found. So wildcard is very much important in nesting things. In nesting things, wildcard is very important. So you can also mention another route, and you can also deal with this thing. When someone searches for this particular route or except the initial thing using use params, you can find it out. If you remove star from use about, you don't have this nested routing. We'll go ahead. Yeah, that's actually small logic, Deepak. Try to figure it out. Try to play with the code. You'll find it out. Now, one important thing I just want to tell you is like this actually thing where we have mentioned this inside this particular component of routing. This component routing is actually a very bad practice. We mentioned everything in this particular thing, routing. So this is actually a very bad practice. All routes should actually present inside this particular thing known as app.jsx. It should present inside this particular thing. All routes should be present here. But here, all routes are actually present in the component itself. That's actually a wrong practice to do. But in order to get and explain every other thing, I did it. Now let's try to see how can we create a project. But before going to the project, let's try to see what are the different components that are actually we have created. Home, users, page not found, about, and listing. Now let's create these components, these respective components here itself. So I'll say inside of this given component, I'll go to the app.jsx. I'll say I'll say this particular thing. So instead of having them here, I'll try to write it in this given. First, I'll create components here. A component is, let's create home.jsx because this is one of the important component. Next, create another component. Let it be navbar component. Navbar.jsx, and let's say we have another component, page not found.jsx. Another component that we use is a product. So product.jsx. So here, same again, we use this fake API thing, fake store API, in order to get the values from products. If you go to this given website, we have this one single thing. Go slow down. We have this thing known as a products. Click on the products. You have details of this product. Let's say if say this thing /1, we got this given product. But why I'm choosing this fake store API is that these actually have these images. So if I go to this particular image in this given thing, I'll paste it, run the code, use these images. So this fake store.api has every other details that are required for this given particular product. So I'll be using this particular thing. So go back. So I've created this product thing. Now after this components pay, we need to actually create these products. What are the product and product details, to be more precise? Product details dot jsx, and also I'll create profile.jsx. Let's say these are the different components that we actually require to build an entire project. So go to every other project, get every other component. I'll say rfc. Go to every other component. I'll press rfc. Go to this another component. I'll say rfc. Go to this another component. I'll say rfc. Go to this another component. Say rfc. That is this profile component. Click rfc. Yes. Now let's go to this home component, because this home component is the crucial component where we actually want to store every other stuff. So for which I'll go to my navbar. Go to my app.jsx. Close every other stuff. Close every other things. Close it. Close it. Loading. Close it. I'll remove it. So instead I'll get this navbar first. So this navbar itself, where this navbar component is actually shown to this page. Go to this, run the code. we are actually returning any kind of a thing or not. This particular thing known as navbar.j6 div navbar, we're actually returning it. So go to this app.j6. So first we need to import it. We need to actually import it. So I'll say import navbar. Now see whether this code, yes, navbar is actually getting run it. So after this, I'll just get these routes for this different things, so which we have did here, or else I'll write the code here itself. So here in the app we have this routes. Instead of it, we'll say route, where we'll say 2. When someone says it is of this particular thing, of this particular thing, I'll say element. I just want to showcase is the home element, this home element. So we need to actually include this home element. I need to import this thing, import home, or else I'll go down. So I'll go to this element itself and I'll say control space, enter. Okay, it is not getting imported. I need to write this import also. Import, I'll say home from as a component slash home. We got this home thing. First I'll write the routes, then we'll figure it out this particular thing. So I'll say 2. When there is this particular component of product slash product, if there is this particular thing in this given URL, I just want to show this particular thing. I'll say it is of product is of this product, and I'll run say route, where I'll say when there is this 2 to this given thing known as product, or I'll say slash product slash id. This id is particularly a dynamic parameter, so I'll use it. I just want to redirect to this particular thing known as product details component. So we have this product details component here, so that's how it. And finally, if someone searches for this thing, let's say some random wildcard thing, simply show them this given particular thing, which is nothing but your what I can say, page not found element. Now import all of them. So import, I'll say product details, I'll say component slash product details. Similarly, we have this another import. We'll say page not found, component slash page not found. So these are the 4 routes that are actually present inside this app, what I can say, inside this app component. So I think, is there anything that we missed? Slash product with the id, and slash home, slash home by default, where we need to navigate. Let's say if someone searches for this thing known as slash home, I'll say element. I just want to navigate it, so I'll say navigate. Wait a minute, I'll say navigate, where I'll say to this home, to this, not home, this particular thing. If someone searches for this thing, go to this particular thing as a navigate, and inside this particular thing I need to import all of them. Import this particular thing, routes, what are this other stuff? Navigate from React router DOM. Route, navigate, and every other things. Yes, now every other thing. Run the code. Okay, is there any mistake that I did? React router DOM. Any other thing that we missed? Yeah, this app.js. Okay, go to this particular console log. This. Okay, runtime last error. Product is not defined. Product is not defined. We have, oh sorry, we haven't imported this particular thing. Product, import product from this component slash product. Yeah, we forgot to implement it, but yes, now the code is actually run. Yes, now we are done with this particular thing known as a navigation bar. Now we need to actually construct this nav bar itself. So let's say instead of going to this nav bar and thing, let's say let's go to this home page. Let's try to figure out what are the things that need to be present. Let's try to do this thing. Okay. Okay, we are on this home page. Let's try to create a nav bar itself. Let's try to create here itself. Wait, we'll create this nav bar. We'll have this nav bar. So where inside of it I have this header component where inside of it I'll say input, where this input element has this different class name. Let's try to give the class name to be search underscore input. I'll also try to give this class name value of this particular header value to be nav underscore wrapper. So inside this input element, so we are actually trying to create a nav bar itself. So this is nothing but a petty structure. So I'll save it. Input element, we'll say type of this particular thing needs to be text. After this type we have this value where we have this thing. Let's try to create a state variable. So till this point what we have did, we are actually implementing it, so do not worry much about it. As SCARCH search term set CAR term itself. Use state. I'll keep it as empty, sorry, not 0 but an empty. So I'll keep this value as search term, which is nothing but, so we are actually creating a nav bar with a search bar itself. That's why I'm actually using this input to search for any other things. And when there is this on change event that actually happens on this given particular element, I'll write a function where I'll say the set search term value to be equals to this e dot target dot value. So whatever things that we have learned, I'm just exactly applying these things. So which I'll say this is the header, or this is the header that is actually having another component, and also we have this another thing which is in this main heading, main bar. Let's try to give this class name is actually equals to something known as product underscore wrapper. So at this point of time we are actually done with this given structure. Now let's check whether no, we are on this given particular point. Someone searches for this thing, we are on the nav bar. Any error? No, nothing, everything is fine. We need to actually now render the point, render the stuff, which is nothing but we need to get the details of this given product at this given particular thing to our load, which is nothing but when our page initially renders, I just want to show this navbar at the top, and below that I need to showcase this entire product details. So for that, how can we do it? It is nothing but we want to, after the initial render, we want to go to this particular given fake store API, and we want to get the data back. For that, we can use this particular thing known as use effect. So I'm going to use it, which is nothing but I'll say use effect, but when before writing this use effect, I just want to import it. That's important. Use effect, fine. This use effect is fine. Now what we'll do, we'll call a function. Where I'll say async. There is this function that we have already written. This particular thing, let's say const resp is actually await fetch, and I'll say this given particular thing. What is this URL here? I'll copy this URL, go back to your code. I'll use it here. Instead of 1, I'll mention it as in this format. I'll say products. Products would be sufficient, because in app also products. By default, we just want to show all products on the home page. Let's say go to this amazon.com, amazon.in. Now everything, this is our home page where we have this nav bar, we have some other elements, and everything that is actually present onto the screen. So here also I just want to create a similar kind of home page where where is this home page? A similar kind of home page where I have this one nav bar. This entire thing is actually a nav bar where it has this search element, search input bar here. So I have created it, close it. Now inside this thing, I just want to showcase every other product. So I'm getting all the products from this given particular link. Wait a minute. This products. Once if I get this given products, I'll say const product data. Product data. It's actually equal to await this particular rest.json. I'm actually converting this code into the JSON format. After converting this JSON format, I'll say console.log. I just want to check whether I'm getting this data or not. So for that, I need to call it, and we have this empty dependency array that is actually present in this use effect thing. So console.log data, and I'm checking whether this given particular code is actually working or not. So how can I check it? Using this console.log. Okay, this console log is actually not working. This is nothing but our user data. Oh, sorry, product data. Sorry, product data, not user data. Sorry. Run the code. You see, okay, the code is the fetch actually is wrong. Is the fetch is actually a wrong thing that we did, or we'll say set this. Okay. I need sorry, I did a mistake. I need a particular state variable not to showcase the data, so that's why I just create a state variable first. I'll say products comma set products. I'll say use state. By default, I'll keep this value as something known as an empty array, because we are getting this objects in the form of empty array, so I'll be using that thing. So here I'll say that set products is actually helpful for to say products actually happens. Product actually happens. Now we have this written code. Now let's check. Are we getting this thing? Okay. Instead, I'll write inside this main thing. I just try to write a condition check that user, is it user or product, or is product data? So we are actually using this products too. So here it is of products. It's not products, it's products data. It's product data. So this product data is actually set for this given particular value products. So I'm using the same thing for condition check, which is nothing but products is equal to null. Then at this given point of time, we'll say loading oh sorry, we'll say h2 part and say loading, and after, if this particular given condition is wrong, then I just want to say h2 products arrived. So now, so this is run the code. Okay, I don't see this console log thing. Is everything working fine? Is everything working fine? Is there anything that I have missed? Let's say I just want to include this home thing. Run the code. Run the code. I just missed it. Sorry. I haven't included this home element here. So check it. Yes, we are getting the data. We are getting the data of 20 objects from this given particular API store. From this given API store, we are getting the 20 objects. Each have their ID, title, and other stuff. So instead, I'll write the code in this given way. Whenever there is a call here, I'll say console. Okay, wait. I'll say product data, because product data is nothing but an array. Here, whenever we are getting whatever things that we are getting in the form of an array, we're actually destructuring it, and we're actually storing inside this product data. So here at this given step, product data, or this given variable product data, is actually storing an array. So for that, I'll say for each, or wait a minute, leave it. So we are getting this data, so that's why I just remove it. Now I just want to showcase my data here. Instead of telling that products arrived, just to close it, wait. We have our nav bar and we have this thing, but it is telling that products arrived. Run the code again. It is loading, and it is telling that products arrived. Yeah, it is telling that products arrived. Okay. You don't see this thing. Okay, rolling. Fine. Anyway, products arrived, which is nothing but here I just want to showcase the product. Now, instead of this particular thing, I'll say whatever things that we have applied till this point, we use it. Previously, you have seen how do we apply this dynamic routing. Use the same logic. Here, where I'll say this product wrapper to be in this given particular format. I'll do this conditional rendering. So whenever we are dealing with this particular thing known as what do you say? Whenever we deal with this particular thing known as use effect, so I'll go ahead with this conditional routing, which is nothing but I'll do this thing where I'll say product.length is actually equals to the value of 0. If there is no other products have gone, then I'll say I just want to show loading. Otherwise, I just show this particular thing. Say products.map, because end of the day, this products is the state variable that is actually storing an array itself. So that's why I just want to, if I want to render any array or list onto the screen, I'll use this map function. We already said it in the first session. Utilize the same thing, which is nothing but here. I'll say if for this given product, I'll say okay, any wrong? No, nothing wrong. I'll say return this given thing. I'll say div element. Okay, wait, is there any wrong that I did? Oh, haven't. Any wrong? Quick fix. Oh, this wrap is invalid. Okay, fine, remove it. This wrap is invalid. Wait, this is sufficient. This wrap is invalid, by the way. Don't worry about it. So if there is this particular thing, I'll write it here. It would be looking like this, where I just want to map the things, where I'll say this class name of this given div element would look like product. And inside this given particular element, I'll say there is this image that is actually coming from this particular API that we have made the call. So I'll use the same thing, or I'll simply say product.api, product.img, I think so, image, img or image, because yeah, there is this alt thing. Let's name it as product image, product image. And after this particular thing, we have our class name. Let's mention the class name also, because we require the styling part. We don't know what is the size and width of image that is getting from this fake store API. So I'll name it as product underscore image, product underscore image. So I'm just giving the structure. It is nothing but simply writing the code. So I'll say class name, where I'll say it is of product underscore meta, where it has this p element, the description of any given product, which I'll say this class name to be product underscore title, where I'll mention this product dot title. For any given product, we have these two elements, title and price. So we'll say class name, so price, and I'll mention this particular thing known as product dot price, product dot price, product dot price. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Now let's try to write this CSS code a bit. Okay, if possible. Okay, let's remove this CSS code completely. Remove the CSS code. This index.css code completely remove it. So change some code in this app.css, or wait a minute, I'll check it. I have this code with me. If possible, if I have code, I'll just copy paste the CSS code. This is this product, and I'll say src. I have this app.css, this entire component. Yes, I'll cut it. I'll paste it. Now see, reduce it. Okay, we do require some styling. Okay, this styling has index.css file. Is there any code? No, there is no other code. So there is this style component. Let's try to write background color nav wrapper height to be this particular stuff. Let's say display is flex justify content to be center, and align items to be center. Now let's check. This is our nav bar. This is our nav bar to search any other stuff. We have this image thing, a bigger thing, the card itself. So we have this particular thing. Use tailwind CSS. I've already written the CSS code, so it is very useful. It is very easy for me to write the code. I'm just copy pasting the CSS code any which way. If you want to style it more, it's your thing. So I think this nav wrapper, and there is a search input product wrapper, search input product wrapper. This is going to point space evenly, and there is this product and product image to be center, and aspect ratio is 3/4 of this thing. Height should be this given particular thing. So page num, this nav bar is already present here. Nav wrapper. So instead I'll remove this pagination code which I have written. I'll remove page num, product wrapper, category option. I think this category option is not required. Categories wrapper not required. Search we have the search input. That would be sufficient. That would be sufficient. Oh, check it. Run the code. Yes, these are the different product items. Check where we have anything, but any which way. Let's style it a bit clearer, a bit more. So what's it? Sir, I think we have to. Sorry. Any which way, it's fine. It's a component. You can make it self-closing or double with an end close and start tag and end tag. We can use it. And which one thing I just won't apply height display container. Um, height 7 rem. Let's do 4 rem because this height of the search input is actually 2 rem. Now this is looking good. Now this nav bar is looking good. This nav bar is actually looking good. It's basically flexible wrap. Then everything is actually wrapped. Everything is actually wrapped. And there is this kind of an overflow. Now where I just want to add this one single thing. We have overflow by is an auto for any given product. So I'll copy it. Okay. Product for this given particular home.js. We have this entire product class name. So let's change the app.css. Go to this app.css. Change this product. So padding is thing, center, height is 18 rem. Let's try to reduce to 10 rem. And let's try to reduce this to 10 rem. Let's make it a square. Okay, the details are itself. Aspect ratio is 1/4, 1/3. Let's give the aspect ratios. This way content. Center. Now we have this thing. Okay. So if the aspect ratio is of 1/4 and text align center, it is actually getting centered, but let's try to reduce this height value to something known as 120 pixel. So 120 pixel. Run the code. Okay, the height component itself. The height itself is one such a thing. Let's make it 200 again. Okay, the image is itself aspect ratio of this product image. Product image, let's make it 3/4. Now this aspect ratio of this product image is 3/4, and I have this product value y auto. I'll make 18 and 20 so that this particular thing is available. We have this thing where we have this product. So at this point of time, do not worry about this styling. Okay, leave the styling part. We can actually check it some other point of time. We can actually check it. So anyone has any kind of a doubt till this point? You wrote product image. You read the wrong spelling. Product image. Okay. Product image. Okay. Go to this thing. TU CT. Thank you for debugging, by the way. Yes, thanks. Whew. Thanks. So this is our output. So till then, what we have done, just we have written this entire code. How do we render the thing? How do we use it? How do we write? Why do we write these condition statements? Because we are actually using this use effect here, and every other sort of stuff. So here I am calling this async function here itself, and this async function is actually placed inside a function itself. inside a function itself. So now this entire thing is actually a synchronous function. In this synchronous function, we have another async function, so that's how it actually works. So till this, have any kind of a doubt? Sir, for all the component you are writing CSS in app.css, or later we should create separate CSS files for each component. You can do it. It's your choice, Mahesh. By the way, it's your choice. No, I'm asking, instead of using this particular uh, it's been updated. It's been updated, so that's why I'm using it. Instead of using this two, we can also use path. In route, we can use path. That's what. In navigate, we use two. In navigate, we use two. So till this point, everyone is clear? Till this point, everyone is clear? If you have any kind of a doubt, you can just ask me. So till this point, we didn't did much things. Simply, we implemented what we have learned from the previous 4 classes or 5 classes. We implemented all this thing in the single class to build the project. That's it. That's what I did. We can write entire CSS in app CSS also, right? Yes, it's your choice, Mahesh. If you want to divide your CSS according to the component, you can do it. If not, you can do it. GitHub link, as I have already shared it. I don't know whether the code is not updating, but it's fine. No, I have used it. Oh, sorry. This is path. This is path. Okay. Thank you for debugging. Thank you for debugging, by the way. Path. Path. This is path. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I have shared the GitHub link, right? I've shared the GitHub link in the team to the team itself, so they have shared it. I have shared it, the GitHub link. So now, okay, it's already 2 hours. Okay, can you share that once again, sir? Yeah, I'll send it to the team. My team will actually send it to it. My team will actually send it. I actually sent it to my team. I don't know why it is. I actually sent it to my team. So anyone has any kind of a doubt till this point? So whatever things we have learned till this point, simply copy pasted or updated. Simple. Not much more than that. That's why I just took around 5 to 6 days in order to explain these basic things. Even further also we do the same thing. We apply this, load the same thing and apply the same thing. Yeah, any which way, I'll ask them to resurface the link again. Everything is clear. Everything is clear. Okay, it's been 2 hours. Okay, any which way, let's say today is complete. Yes, complete. Yes, we'll stop the session because I got this thing that you people are getting, not your people are unable to focus if the session is more than 2 hours. So it's already been 2 hours. So yeah, I don't go beyond it. I don't go beyond it. I'll share the Git. My team will actually resurface. Don't worry about it. I'll push this code and I'll just share with them. I'll just share with them. Please don't forget. I don't forget to share. Actually, I've shared this GitHub link. Anyway, I'll share it again. Don't worry. I'll share it again. Bye. If you're done with the session, if you have any kind of doubts, you can ask me. Otherwise, you can leave the chat or you can leave the class. That's it for the session. Thank you all. And yeah, if you have any kind of doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can leave. Bye. Good night. Yes, then good night, sir. Good night. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Good night, Shivashankar. Any kind of doubt, I'll be open for the next 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes to be more precise. So yeah. So anyone any doubts? Final call. That's it for the session. Good night. If you have any doubts, just contact the team. Thank you all.